Hey buds, welcome back to another episode of Weed Budz Radio. Of course, I'm still your host, Rye Russell. And today I want to talk a little differently about cannabis. Not negatively, not positively, just differently. Because I would consider myself an advocate. I would consider most of you tuning into this show an advocate. And I think we sometimes get lost in our advocacy. I think we like to downplay some of the negative components that can come with cannabis. And we love to cheer and celebrate all of the amazing things that cannabis does for people's lives. But there's a spectrum, just like there is with everything. And there's this wide gap in the middle. And I think it's unfair for us advocates to look past some of the negative things that can happen with cannabis in people's lives. And I think it's obviously ignorant for those that just see the negatives to not educate themselves and inform themselves on some of the positives. Right. So in my journeys of looking for people that might be able to speak on both sides of this, I was super blessed to get connected with Tarris Batiste on LinkedIn. And he is the author of Don't Let It Smoke You. And I want him today to share his journey and what his personal opinions are about cannabis, how it can be an effective use for athletes and for individuals all over the world, but how it can also kind of take control negatively. And so joining us today, Tarris, thank you so much.
Sure, for sure. No, thank you for having me on. I'm happy to be here and happy to chat it up with you. I love your passion. I love your passion around cannabis and your understanding around the pros and the cons. Happy to be here and happy to get into talk to you.
Well, we connected very quick. I remember you sent me a message and I said, I want to talk to you if you're not going to give me 20 minutes of cannabis is the best thing in the world. Like, I want to have a real conversation. Absolutely. And it's real. And so I would love for you to share with the audience a little bit about your journey. How did you and I connect? Kind of where did you come from? And then let's talk about the book.
Yeah, so how me and you connected was via LinkedIn, just doing my outreach about the book. The book came out a year ago. I was been doing tons of outreach, right? Trying to market, trying to get it to as many hands that make sense, that's aligned with it. So that's how we connected. Kind of before then, a little bit of background. I'm from Georgia, from a small town in Georgia called Cartersville. I live in Seattle now. That's my new home. It's been in my home for like 3 years, learning about the cannabis industry, where it's going, all different topical CBD, CBDA, CBDG. I love that shit, man. I'm gonna be honest, but learning about that right now. But also what got us on the call is I wanted to do both. I wanted to be able to use and not let it control me. And, you sound like you kind of had the same thing and had the same similarities going on, not personally, but, as you kind of grew up with it. And that's what got us on the call, man. I'm happy to talk to it for sure.
So when did cannabis first start playing a role in your life?
Yeah. So like everyone, I don't want to say everyone, but I started off smoking, right? Back then, we didn't have the cool CBD bombs and all that stuff like that, right? I started off smoking and I started off around 8th grade, right? But it didn't continuously happen until I would say junior year in high school is when I really started to learn how to roll up by myself, didn't need my friends, and started to kind of get into that act over and over again.
Interesting. Yeah. And was it something that you were using? Because obviously you were an athlete. So was it something that you were using for pain management, or were you using it because it was cool?
Neither at that time, to be completely honest. I was using it because I enjoyed it and the shit was fun. It got us around hot chicks in high school. It got us around each other, and we kind of all stood around and kind of stayed to this little bubble. So I enjoyed that. Didn't notice it was going to be a cool thing, although it kind of was kind of edgy and kind of arcane, a little mysterious when we was younger. But yeah, for sure.
How about college? Obviously as an athlete, you've got to be drug tested, right? So how do you use and consume in college?
So that's when I caught on to the pain management part, right? I played safety in college. I understood after using so much, you start to get to certain cadence for you, right? You start to understand when you used in the mornings, the nights. So that's why I understood pain management around practices, 2-a-days, 3-a-days. I actually went to rehab my sophomore going in my junior year in college. Like, right, I'm serious. I was using all the time and everybody on the team knew. I didn't hide it. My eyes were always red. I would always smell it on my fingertips, right? And the coach tried to look out for me around my junior year in college. I tried to figure out that pain management and I tried to figure out myself, and I was just going through it. And that's what got me to rehab. And that's what got me to write the book for sure. Don't let it smoke you.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's similar to a lot of stories out there. I think a lot of people can kind of get into a system in their mind that, like, you know, it's fun, it's healthy. You know, look all around, look at all the great things it does. And then we forget that it can smoke us too.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
so, you know, tell me about like an average day. So like you're in college, you're working out in the morning, you're practicing 2 or 3 times a day. You've got games, you've got school. I mean, how much are you smoking?
Yeah. So, and I was smoking blunts too. You know, I was just, you know, and I actually listened to, I'll get to your question, but I actually listened to a guy that you were speaking with on your radio, John Fry. He was talking about tobacco and the chemicals and what it does to you. So that's why I mentioned I was smoking blunts too. But to get to your question, so an average day in college will look like this. I worked out in the mornings like all athletes at any school, right? But I would smoke before I go work out, right? Okay. So that's the first thing. If the workout was 6 a.m., I would wake up at 5 a.m. If the workout was at 9, I would wake up at 7, right? So I would alter my day around that. But in the short, I would smoke really much after everything I did. After I ate, before I ate, you know, it kind of became like my go-to thing. And so I would say like 5-6 times a day, at least 2 blunts a day. Yeah, for sure. And that's a lot.
And so you were scheduling around your smoking sessions?
Absolutely. And as I got older, I started to use it as a reward, right? You know what I mean? Okay, I got my homework done. I practiced pretty good. Everybody's cool. Me and my girlfriend's on a good page. Okay, let's smoke. You know what I mean? So I started to do that too, for sure. Yeah.
That's powerful because I think, I don't know, I would say all of us, but I would assume just about all of us has done that, right? Has used anything, right? Whether it's candy or sugar or soda or cannabis, that we reward ourselves, right? We reward ourselves for that shitty task list that's going to take all day and we don't want to do it, but we're going to do it because as soon as it's done, we're going to get this sweet release.
You already know.
I totally get it. But I'm curious because obviously I shared with you, you know, for me, you know, what some of the consequences were of not intentionally and deliberately understanding what I'm consuming and how I'm consuming and just allowing it to smoke me as well. But I'm curious what some of those consequences were for you.
Ask that question in a simpler way, will you?
Yeah, absolutely. So what were some of the negative ramifications of smoking weed?
Yes. Number one, my family started to notice me distancing myself. Thanksgiving, family functions, if I wasn't high, probably not coming. Number two, in my relationship life, whether I was hanging out with friends, going to a bar, or whether I was going out to eat with my girlfriend in college at that time, I had to before, and they were like, damn, we got to wait on you. The women were like, what are you doing? We don't smoke. Why are you taking? And it started to get in the way. And, you know, they started to mention that to me and I started to look outside myself and say, damn. So those were a couple too that really stuck out to me. And after that, I would say the last thing, really my money at that time. All my money was going to it, right? I think that happens often around the world. But when you're young, all my money was going to it. And I wasn't even buying big batches either, right? I was buying small grams each day, just wasting my money. So those are 3 points that really stood out to me. And I had to make a change really quick for sure.
That's powerful. As a retailer of an adult use establishment in Maine, I'm not conflicted. People ask me all of the time if I'm conflicted. I am not conflicted. I have no problem investing in my community. And I've had customers where I've said, hey, maybe you should see if this can last you the weekend. Not that I don't want to see you. Come see me tomorrow. We'll have a cup of coffee. I love the social aspect of my job, but I'm also very, very serious. Like I stupid love my community, and I am going to look out for them. And I don't like the other drugs in my community. I don't like people using anything unsafely. We talked about it before. If it was up to me to rewrite the law, it'd be 25 before you could smoke or drink. Like it wouldn't even be, it'd be booze too. I think till your brain's formed, I really don't want to see a lot of chemicals in it, and unless it's needed. So I've never been conflicted. And as I mentioned, I've had people I say, just try to get through the weekend, and then we'll hook it up again on Monday. Well, geez, Rye, why are you cutting me off? I said, I'm never gonna cut you off. That's not what I'm doing. I'm as your friend. I'm just telling you, like, one, I know price wise this is getting expensive, and of course I need to feed my family and feed my employees' family. But again, not at the expense of your well-being, because you come to me and I sell you joy for sure. Like that makes me happy every day. But I want total happiness. I don't want you to go home and be like, well, now I can't buy coffee tomorrow because I just paid Rye and Bud's Emporium. I just don't like that.
Right. Well said too. And I think that's where we kind of connected. That's the humanitive part of you. And that's why I'm happy that we got guys like you in those shoes for sure.
I appreciate that. For those listening that maybe are relating really strongly right now, what do you have for some words of encouragement? And how did you pull yourself out of that system, out of that funk that you were in?
Yep. So for the words of encouragement, I would say it's okay to drift. I'm gonna get to that. It's okay to drift. And then how I pulled myself out of it. So I talk about it in the book, literally step by step, and don't let it smoke you, but I'll give it to you in a little bullet point fashion. So first I acknowledged my issue, right? I was blunt enough to say, hey, I do this. I went to rehab for it in college. The coaches know, although I didn't pass rehab. I just gave it up, by the way, but my mom knows, everybody knows. So that's the first thing, acknowledge it. Wear it with pride, who cares? Especially now, right? That's the first thing. Just stand in it. Right. It helps you a lot. Second, I would say start to understand your internal and external goals, who you're hanging around, why you use, right? Why you use, is it used because you're bored playing a video game? Is it because you're with this group of people? Or is it because you like to go to the studio and make music? It's different for everyone, right? So those are the very 2 points I would say. That's what helped me cut back, just being very open to it. And really just not being dependent around it. I don't like to say addiction. I don't like to say habits, just not being dependent to it. So that's kind of my couple little nuggets there. I hope that helps somebody for sure. You sound like you want to unpack some stuff. Go ahead, axe away.
I do. So I guess my first question is, do you use now? Do you use today?
Absolutely. Still today.
Incredible. So what was mentally the biggest, because I think when we talked, for me, right, it was just intention. It was, Mark, if I'm going to do something, I'm writing it down, then I'm consuming it. And I'm just going to be aware, right? Because it was so easy, right? Especially if you own a store, right? It's so easy to find pre-rolls, and so like, no, like you got, it'd be like being extremely obese and running a buffet, right? Like you've got to be intentional about what it is that you're doing. And for me, I have, employees to support and families to support and a community to love and a business to thrive. I've got to be very aware of what I'm doing. And, that's a journey, right? Kind of a wellness all in general is a journey. And so I was curious if you were able to kind of come out of your battle and your struggle and now say, wow, that relationship with cannabis is very different.
Absolutely. Completely different now. You don't necessarily get over it. You just learn how to live and deal with it. you're not gonna say, you know what, I'm done with cannabis. I'm done, because it does help you in some point, right? Depending on who you are, it helps you in some way, recreational or medically. Maybe you don't know yourself too. I truly believe in that. But you asked me, you said, do I still use today? I do. I know how to use, I know when it's an asset to me. I like to say the power of when to use for you and for me is different. And mornings, nights, etc. And then how you use microdosing, etc. It's different. So I know how to use for myself. I don't know how to use with a group of my friends, but for myself. So it's different. And that's what I kind of hang my hat on for sure.
Incredible. It is a journey. And I think often consumers, I see it here, they come in and they ask a question and they want that answer. And they get frustrated with my answer on, it's a journey and I'm willing to go on it with you.
Yeah.
And, some of them are just like, well, no, I want to know how many milligrams and what's going to be the bet. And I don't have that answer. I don't know. And frankly, if anybody does know that answer, I'd be a little cautious.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that, right? It's growing with us hand in hand. Literally, more cannabinoids are coming out by the day, and as we grow, it's growing with people hand in hand. So I think we're all kind of in a journey and experimenting and trying to figure out what works for us.
For all we know, there's a compound in this plant that's more psychoactive than THC. It's the universe inside this plant, and we're just starting to explore it.
Absolutely. I'm excited. So I don't want nobody to think that I don't use. I just understand how to use healthy, and use how I want to use for sure.
And for those listening at home that might want to get some tips on how to use healthier, or may just kind of need that empathetic story of, wow, somebody else gets it. Like, there is a low point to this when done incorrectly. How do they stay connected with you? How do they find the book?
Yes, you can find the book on Amazon. Just type in "Don't Let It Smoke You" and type in Tarris Batiste. You can go to cleverchief.org to get the book there too. It gives you a little bit more information about what I have coming up, etc. If you want to kind of go back and forth, play a little verbal tennis, right? Go to don'tletitsmokeyou@gmail.com. I'll respond fast as there. But that's how we can kind of stay connected. Follow me on Instagram. I'll follow back. I'm really here to connect. I'm really here to learn. I'm open to it. But I'm also here to kind of, help nudge and say, hey, just do what you do. Just don't let this stuff control you. So for sure.
Yep. Love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It really means a lot to me.
Thank you. Thank you for your time, Rye. Hopefully we can get some books in Maine with you. So we can get that going for sure. And I want to know how it goes in Maine in some ways that, you're kind of utilizing that Don't Let It Smoke You. So that'd be cool to know.
Absolutely. No, we're excited to have the books here on the shelf here at Bud's Emporium in Medway, Maine. So thank you, Tarris, for allowing me to put that plug in there. So, of course, as all of you know, all of the links to connect with Tarris and grab the book, Don't Let It Smoke You, those will be right on our show notes. So WeedBudZRadio.com. And then in those show notes, we'll have those links so you can go purchase the book. And of course, we are grateful for you joining us for another episode of Weed Budz Radio, and we'll see you in the next one.